This episode of Close Up, I am sitting down with the nicest wrestler on the planet, Adam Cole.
Adam Cole, here in the hot seat on Close Up. I'm so excited to have you here. It's hard to say your name and not just want to say the Bebe.
It is very hard.
Like Adam Cole Bebe.
Right.
It's one thing.
It kind of is the full name.
Yes.
It kind of is the full name. But Renee, I'm always looking forward to talking to you. So yeah, this is great.
You look great. Do you
Thank
feel
you.
great?
I feel really, really good. I know this sounds incredibly cliche, especially when coming back from a challenging injury or whatever.
Sure.
But I really do mean this. This is the best I've felt in years, even before the injury, both physically, mentally. I feel ready to rock and roll.
What do you accredit that to? Because I feel like I can see it.
Yeah.
I can see that there's a difference in you right now. You obviously physically you look great, but I can tell that you just you're firing on all cylinders.
So I think too, because I was thinking about this for quite some time, trying to figure out why I am where I am mentally and physically and all that stuff. And again, I never lost an appreciation for pro wrestling. Mm-hmm. It's always meant the world to me. But after the two incredibly challenging injuries, one of them being career threatening, the other one just being so difficult physically and mentally. Yeah. It gave me this whole new appreciation of this job and how much I love it. So now coming back from those two things and still being able to do what I love to do and getting to travel every week and wrestle and be with my friends and stuff like that. I am never ever, not that I did, but I will absolutely never take this for granted. So that's kind of the mentality.
Also, not to just be cheesy with it, but how lucky are we that we get to do this?
Exactly.
That you get to come out here, you've had those ups, you've had the downs, you've had the injuries, you've had all these things. But yeah, to what you just said, to be here at AEW with all of your friends in the situation that you're in right now, did you ever think, 5-10 years ago that this is where you'd be at?
You know what? Yes and no. It was there is a part of me constantly that thinks back to being 9 years old and just wanting to be a pro wrestler. And that's all I ever dreamed of, all I ever wanted to do. But at the same time, ever since I was 9 years old, I made my mind up. I'm there is no other option. There's no other choice. I'm going to be a wrestler. I'm going to do this. But at the same time, again, have not lost appreciation for it. So it's both incredibly exciting and I never thought this was going to happen, and then also there's another part of me that's no, this is exactly
this was
what was
going to
happen. Yeah.
I always feel very lucky to have known what I wanted to do from a very long time, to be able to, obviously the odds are still against you to well, how are you going to figure out to make that happen? But thank God to put in that work, be where you need to be. So to take things back the other way, let's talk about some of those injuries and some of the stuff that you had been going through. I guess starting with the concussion, because that was a major setback for you. Thinking that you were possibly not going to come back. Yeah,
it was horrifying. Again, throughout in April, it'll be 17 years that I've been wrestling, which is wild.
Yeah.
But really throughout my career, up until these past two injuries, I only had one major injury where I got my shoulder repaired in 2014.
Yeah.
I was only out for 3 months. That was it. So very, very quick. Other than that, I've been wrestling full-time, nonstop.
Yeah.
So with the concussions, one of the biggest reasons it was so scary is I couldn't figure out why.
It was back-to-back, right?
Yeah, it was back-to-back.
Yeah.
Because it was all things I had done a million times. Up until that point, I was feeling pretty tired and pretty run down. But again, with the first concussion and then thinking, oh man, it's been 3 weeks, I'm fine, I'll be good to go, and then getting a second one, clearly I was not okay.
Yeah.
And just the side effects early on, the first few months from the injury was pretty scary. I had vertigo a lot. The biggest thing that was horrifying was emotionally, I was all over the place.
Right.
There were some times where I'd wake up in the middle of the night, and I had never had this before, but I had panic attacks, which was really, really scary.
Yeah.
So it was a really, really horrifying time, actually. And then even talking to the doctors who had mentioned, hey, you may have to accept the fact that we don't know if you're going to get back to a point where you will be able to come back. I told myself over and over again, no, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to come back. I'm going to figure out a way to get back into the ring. But at the same time, in the back of my head, I'm thinking, God, is this what the rest of my life is going to be like?
Right, when you're not feeling like yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Which is almost worse than anything else, not feeling like yourself.
Of course. God, for anyone that's ever had a panic attack or felt that level of anxiety, what a prison that is. Like,
seriously, because you can't control it whatsoever. It's not one of those things where you can think like,
just
okay,
calm down,
just calm
you're
down,
fine.
Just stop. It is absolutely uncontrollable, and I'm fortunate that I knew exactly what it was from, which was good, but it doesn't change the fact that it was horrifying.
How did you get over that hump?
Well, I had a lot of love and support.
Yeah.
Me and Britt Baker were together at the time. She showed so much love, so much support. My family was incredibly supportive. My friends, even the fans too. It was really, really nice to hear.
Yeah.
I'd say like every day I would check and there would be people saying like, hey, I don't know how Adam Cole's doing, but I just want him to be okay. I don't care if he ever comes back again, which was so cool to hear. So just a lot of love and support. And then of course I still had that goal and that focus, but without that support from everybody, I don't know if I would have gotten through it.
Well, let's get into the foot.
Yeah.
Because then you come back and now we have this brutal foot injury also on like a fluke, random injury.
Complete fluke. I've said this before, the concussion was the scariest injury, but the foot was the most frustrating by a mile. I had just come back for 6 months. We had done the All-In show. I got to main event that show and challenge for the AEW World title.
Yeah.
Like everything was going so well. I'm like, oh, I'm so happy that I overcame that injury and now I'm back. Then again, a freak thing where when I jumped down, just the way that I landed, my ankle exploded. I knew immediately it was broken. But then even too, it just kept getting worse because I went to go and get the first surgery. And they're like, we'll put 4 screws in. You're gonna be out for probably about 6 months. The surgery was supposed to be 1 hour. 3.5 hours later, I wake up, they go,
oh my God, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they go, okay, we had to put 6 screws in, and also you need another surgery 7 days from now. It's so much worse.
What was the other surgery?
The other surgery was there was a bone that was just floating around in my ankle, and they tried to save it, but it just disintegrated. So I have someone else's cadaver bone.
Well, I did know that.
Here.
Yes, that I did know.
So it was just
old cadaver Cole.
Yeah, right, cadaver Cole. So it took a lot more work than even they thought they were going to have to do. So again, and then 13 months later, I was able to come back. So it was incredibly frustrating. Not being able to get around, not being able to get up and walk to go to the bathroom and stuff like that. So frustrating.
You have no independence.
None.
Like you're so beholden to like having that help, having that assistance. I remember I was talking to you, I like rolled my ankle, whatever, around Christmas time, and I'm like hobbling through the airport, and all I could think about was you, that I'm like, oh my God, how did you do this for so long? Like you had that injury, already going through the motions with that, but like still on the road.
Yeah.
You were still traveling and doing stuff on TV with that. Like how did you possibly get through that?
So physically it was probably a horrible idea, all things considered.
Yeah.
But mentally it was great for me.
Oh, well that's good.
It really was, because I had just been gone for 9 months with this concussion. And then just coming back for 6 and then thinking, oh my God, I'm gonna be gone again for a long time.
Yeah.
So I still was able to perform in some capacity.
Right.
But physically it was very challenging. Like I remember there were so many parts too, because I can be stubborn, where I would walk into the airport on crutches. And if someone offered a wheelchair, then I would take it.
Oh, okay.
But if they didn't, then I couldn't. I had to walk through the airport on my crutches.
Oh my God.
Sometimes I'd use the wheelchair, which was much easier. But then obviously flying, the ankle would swell up.
Yes.
It was just.
I think that like my knees start to bug me when I fly now, and I'm like, I don't take a bump. I've never taken a bump in my life.
Right.
I can't imagine for you guys to be like up and down on the planes like that, having these matches, getting on we all know that like travel is one of the hardest parts of doing this job, but like. Yeah. Good Lord, I couldn't imagine traveling the way you did with your foot, the way that it was for like a long time.
Right, a really, really long time.
So let's talk about the starts and stops then, because it's like you come here to AEW, like I will never forget that night of you debuting here. Like what an incredible moment. You and Brian both in the same night, like such a big surprise. We were so lucky to get you to come here, but then having these starts and stops with the injuries, we're coming, we're going. Like how do you stay the course of being in the position that you want to be in within this company?
Yeah, to me, there's just no other choice. I know these challenges have been difficult, but everyone goes through their own challenges in their own way. I'm not even close to wanting to be done with wrestling. I feel like I have a lot more to offer, especially here in AEW. So even with these roadblocks or with these challenges, my mentality has just never changed. I'm fully confident that I'll be able to come back from all of this and have the best years of my career ahead of me.
I always feel like you are the nicest man in professional wrestling. Like, always so sweet, always so humble. That's just the way that you are. But I mean, you look at all the things that you've been able to accomplish. I mean, looking at your resume as former Ring of Honor world champion, holding championships in other promotions, to where you're at now. Like, how do you stay humble with that? You know, like, I mean, you have so many accomplishments, but you're always just so like chill and cool about the whole thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can even answer that. How does someone answer that?
I think I can. I love that
know.
question. I think it's the realization that none of this could have happened like on my own. Like all the things that I have accomplished and all the things I've gotten to do has been from either being given opportunities or working with some incredible pro wrestlers. Having the support from the fans. Like Adam Cole is an Adam Cole with just himself. You know, the whole process. And that's kind of what I love so much about pro wrestling, is it really is in many ways a team effort in a lot of ways. Like what makes an incredible show is not just one person, it's everybody. Everybody involved. From the crew, the referees, the producers, the wrestlers, the fans even. So for me, having that mentality has really kind of kept things in perspective for me.
You know, I always think, like I was talking to you about this earlier, but when I watch your entrance and even just like seeing those moments, like you're so locked in, and like it's one thing to sit here and us like hang out and like as friends talking or whatever, but when I see you in those moments and the whole crowd is behind you, like what does that feel like to have that swell of support? Just as soon as you hit the boom, like everyone is with you. Talk to me about like getting to that level of having that support. And you seem like you've had that your entire career basically.
Yeah, no, it's been unbelievable. There have been times too where I've wondered like why I got so lucky to have all the support that I've gotten. But I think oftentimes the audience can tell and can feel like with being locked in, but also like how passionate I am about wrestling. But that has never gotten old. And that will never ever change. It's still every single time I get the chance to go out there and have an entrance or have a match and to have the support of the fans, it means everything. It's honestly one of the biggest reasons I do this. It's just the best feeling in the world to have that support.
It's funny when like you spend time with people and like I'm used to us just being able to like hang out, and then I see you do that. I'm like, God, look at him go. Like he's just really in his shit right now. It's awesome. Let's talk about working with your Undisputed crew. I mean, to have you guys back together in this capacity, what is it about working with Roddy and Kyle that it just works for you?
Well, it's, again, not to sound corny, but it really is a dream come true to be able to do this with both those guys. Again, Roderick Strong is absolutely one of my best friends, not just in wrestling, but in my entire life. Kyle O'Reilly, exact same thing. I've practically been married to Kyle since I started in wrestling. I met him when I was like 1 year in, and me and him wrestled each other on a Dragon Gate USA pre-show that kind of was the catalyst for us getting out there more. So I was in Kyle's wedding. I mean, these are guys that I talk to every single day. So now to be able to work with two of my absolute best friends is just the absolute greatest. Because the only thing better than getting to do something you're really passionate about is getting to do something you're really passionate about with the people that you love. So again, Kyle and Roddy are just the absolute best. They bring the best out in me. I like to think I bring the best out in them. So it's incredible.
You've been able to work with them obviously a lot more consistently over the duration of your career. But now let's get to the Bucks, because there was a big period of time when you weren't working with the Bucks, and now having this opportunity to come back in and be with those guys. Kind of run me through your relationship with those guys.
Yeah, again, I've known Matt and Nick practically my whole career. It's been a really, really long time since I've known them, and they are two of the best guys in the entire world. Two of the most talented guys in the entire world too. Whether working with them at Pro Wrestling Guerrilla or at Ring of Honor and stuff like that. So the cool thing was too, even before I got to AEW, I had always kept in touch with Matt and Nick. We always had a relationship. But I remember leading up to being able to debut at AEW, one of the biggest things was, oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm going to get to see Matt and Nick every week. So I love them. Again, they're one of the greatest tag teams, if not the greatest of all time. They really, really are. And two just incredible guys. So it's really, really, really awesome to get to be around them again.
Let's talk a little chugs here.
Oh. Let's go.
I only just realized what a double life you're living.
Yeah.
We know you as professional wrestler Adam Cole Bebe, but of course on Twitch, very popular, streaming your video games.
Yep.
And you just told me that there's people that follow you on there that were not even aware that you're a professional wrestler.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, it's true.
How do you keep these things separate? Is it sacred for you to keep them separate?
It kind of is. I do, I don't mind here and there talking about wrestling on Twitch, but generally speaking, my two biggest passions are pro wrestling and video games by a mile.
Yeah.
So to be able to start this Twitch stream and this community has been such a wonderful thing. To go back to the injuries, one of the biggest things that kept me sane when I was out injured.
Oh my God, I remember seeing the video when you got a little choked up on there one time, and I was like, oh my God.
Yep. God, it meant everything at that time. If I didn't have that and I just had to sit at home, I don't know what I would have done. But I love pro wrestling for its storytelling. I love video games for its storytelling. And it's so cool to be in a community of people who are just absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
We get to share and discuss these passions of games or of life. Like if it's someone's birthday, we celebrate that it's their birthday. If someone's going through a rough time, we are there for them. It's just a really cool thing. So
That's very cool.
I love it dearly. Yeah.
What is a piece of advice that maybe you have for somebody that could be going through some of those mental struggles and kind of staying the course? I mean, I know in pro wrestling we talk a lot of times about it's one thing to be successful in the ring and being on the road, but it's what you do with that downtime when you could have an injury, or maybe you're not booked the way that you want to be booked and you're trying to figure out your place in this ecosystem. What's your advice to people that are maybe going through something like that?
My biggest thing, and this is just for me personally, I think it's incredibly important to find someone in your life who you love and they love you, and don't be afraid to talk about it. Because lots of times, I know for me, if I'm down in the dumps, I lots of times won't say anything, and I'll bottle it up, and it gets so much worse.
Oh yeah.
But there are absolutely people in everyone's lives who you can go to for support and for love, and I think being able to communicate those things that you're going through is important, because sometimes just talking about it will drastically make a difference on how you're feeling. And then obviously recognizing that, and this is the case for everybody, but life really is just filled with ups and downs. There are moments where stuff is not going so good, but I promise you things will get better. They always do. They always do.
You've said that you're not nearly done with pro wrestling. You're healthy, you're looking good, you're feeling good. You're back with your Undisputed Kingdom crew.
Yeah.
What is next for you? If you could kind of write the future for Adam Cole, what's it look like right now?
So I'm really enjoying being in a trio, obviously, with Roddy and Kyle. So I think at the end of the day, being the trios champions here in AEW would be really awesome for me. But I've said this since I started in AEW. I desperately want to be AEW World Champion someday. So going forward, that is my goal. That goal will never change, and that's the focus for 2025.
Well, I'll be keeping that in mind. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I'm glad that you're feeling the way that you are and that you're back and you're doing all things that you need to be doing, and I'm excited for you.
Thanks, Renee. Thank you.